Hey, it's Codeman, or Nammy Doc, or
I'm Bush.
whatever you prefer. This is probably going on the Nammy Doc channel, but uh, still Codeman, I'll say. So, it's kind of a weird video. I'll explain a little bit what I'm going to try to do with it so you can watch it accordingly. Um, this is going to be a mostly unedited, just a ramble over this footage. By the way, this footage is double speed. It was originally a 1 hour and 20-minute time lapse, and it's been trimmed down to 40 minutes. Still very, very long. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to fill out all that time, really. But I'm thinking that I'm going to comment on what I'm animating, maybe. I'll go over some of these Q&A questions I got a while ago that probably won't make it into a video. It's going to be pretty much unedited. Unless, I don't know, I mess up. I want to cut out some of these coughs. I don't know. So if you would like, I don't know, 4 times speed, you're welcome to turn it to 2 times. Also on my Instagram, there will be quicker versions of this. I might even link some of this in the description. If you want to go crazy, you can watch this at real speed and change it to half. I don't know why you'd ever want to do that to yourself, but just going to be talking over this a little bit. So, let's see, is there anything interesting to talk about what I'm animating at the moment? No, this is just getting into aiming. So, you'll notice a lot of flashing. Sorry, that should just be minor flashing, but it's a thing I constantly do where I put my hand in front of the lens and then I take it away. So it's kind of like flipping back and forth between frames, but it's not something you can really do on Stop Motion Studio. So it's something you have to kind of just emulate. Hoping this might be entertaining to some people. I don't know, it's going to kill my viewer attention, I'm sure. Who knows if I'll even upload this. Alright, so. Let's start out, like, I originally started to write a script for the Q&A. So, kind of going over that just to steal the questions, then I'll probably come up with the answers on the spot. So, these questions are from my Instagram story. Codeman Animations on Instagram. Should check it out. So Zach the Lego Maniac and Andrew Brick Production asked, what's with the cats in my profile picture? So, a little confusing, I guess, if it's on this channel, that it's an inverted image, but the cat on my main channel is Tiger. Oh, I said I wasn't going to edit this, so I can't show you any images, but like the one on my Instagram profile and the one I use for Discord, if you see me on Discord, is also Tiger, just a slightly different photo. I haven't changed the one for my main channel, just because, branding, I don't know. But that is Tiger. She passed away, I don't know, a few summers ago? But I still have another cat, Tux, who doesn't make it onto any of my other profiles. He's not quite as photogenic. I guess he could have worked for, like, the more inverted photo, but I liked the inverted colors and the reversed letters for Nammy Doc. So, Leo Taraskio asks, how old are you? I'm 17 as of July 11th, so I guess I'm recording this, what is this, December 27th? Like 17 and a half now? That sounds right. Brick Brigade asks, what frame rate do you work with? Recently, 12, a lot more. I had a period where I was going into 8 FPS after Manifest, because I really enjoyed working with a different frame rate and feeling that out and seeing what kind of stylistic things I could do. This footage, by the way, that you're watching is animated at 12 FPS. Before that, I did a lot at 15, and that just seemed like the thing to do. It was the next big jump, because before that was 10 frames per second, because that was the most, like the Lego stop motion app, like officially sponsored by Lego for iOS. I got my aunt's iPhone 4 to do it quite a few years ago. But then when I upgraded to a new phone, I was on Android, so I went to Stop Motion Studio, which much, much better than that app. I doubt it's gotten any updates. It's probably not even available anymore. But with Stop Motion Studio, I was actually able to go above 10 frames per second. So I went to 15 because that seemed like the logical jump, and a lot of people were doing 15 at the time. And I'm not sure when I moved down to 12, really. I don't know, I got into the bad habit of animating my first shot, and then saying, "Oh, that looks a little too quick, let's turn down the frame rate." Yeah, 12 FPS works, I guess I'll just animate the rest at 12. And luckily I could adapt to the new frame rate, but that's not a healthy way to choose your frame rate. Like, that exact same thing happened to Rooftop Pursuit. I started that at 15, the first shot was way too quick, so I went to 12, and the rest is at 12. I am not a fan of mixing frame rates, so once I pick a frame rate, I will stick to it. But my Tiptoe Bricks in Motion animation contest entry, that was originally supposed to be 12, and then the Tiptoe was way too fast, so now it's 10. Now I think I'm a little bit better at it, and I've been doing 12 because that seems to be the standard. I really need to try 24, but I don't think you can blame me for not wanting to do it. 12 is already really annoying, like for something like this, where it's such small movements, that like you're just poking it with your finger and sometimes a Q-tip, not a Q-tip, a toothpick, and I'm already getting frustrated and I have to delete frames and redo things because minifigures aren't meant to do these small poses because they're so small. They're much smaller than my fingers. That once I upgrade to action figures or puppets or something, I will definitely try a 24. I doubt you'll see any of that on Codeman. I don't know. I haven't really decided what I would switch to. I'd still be doing this a lot because I especially like what you can create with all the sets and everything. But I think it's about time I try something a little different as well. Oh, I guess I haven't really been looking at the footage playing, but you'll see doing paper effects thanks to Loft Studios, I believe. They won the Eric Tong 700 subscriber contest. I might put some text on the screen to correct that if that's wrong. But I was one of the judges, guest judges, and I was really, really impressed with their entry, and they did all practical paper effects, and it looks amazing, especially for the lightsabers. So I thought I'd test it out. So I had done a few quick little tests that you haven't seen because I won't post them because they're not very good. But this is the first full time I did it that it's just a slip of paper with a flashlight shined on it, so it's clipping the sensor, and it works really, really nicely. That everything is in camera. I say that it's unedited, but I do mask out the few frames of the clip falling magazine. I don't know what it's called. I've gone back and forth on it so many times. I haven't bothered to look it up. I'm sitting in front of my computer and I still won't. On to the next question. What's your favorite stop motion you've made? Oh, sorry. J Shadow asks. Gotta give credit. Favorite... That's a little tricky. Because I like a lot of the new stuff I've made, but I also find myself thinking that there's so much more I could do. That I'm very happy with Rooftop Pursuit. That's the best bit of action probably on my channel. It's the most polished. I really like the choreography and that unfinished test video. I definitely have to do something more like that because that really shows off more of my martial arts knowledge with like shoulder throws and things like that. That's so much fun. But a nightmare to animate, and one of the reasons why I canceled it, because that was probably a year ago. I just was not skilled enough to do it at the time. Didn't have the patience either. But what is it called? Endless Chase, I'm very proud of, especially considering that was just done in a week because I procrastinated so much with Manifest. That was actually the first thing I've ever animated at 8 FPS. The officer waist deep in water that reacts to the sound, that is the first thing I ever animated at 8 frames per second. And I'm super happy with how that turned out, considering it was the first time doing it. And then that led me on to a lot of the tests you see on the channel. Oh, sorry, I might have lied. That blaster test on Nami Doc. I think that was the first one. And that Manifest was the second. But I really like the shots I did in that, and now you should check out the remastered version, because it's actually in 1080p now, that you can admire some of the cinematography I tried to bring to it. Okay, I think I've probably rambled enough. Porg Studios and Infinity Stop Motion asks, plus a bunch of other people, I'm sure, when did you start animating? I should be more prepared to answer this question, but I think it was the Christmas of 2011. Does that make sense? Is that 10 years? I guess so. But it depends on what you call animation, because it was the start of what would lead to animation, but it was just like still frames held as long as I wanted them to tell a story. That I saw it more as a comic book, even though I did more in-betweens of like the one wind-up frame, one punch frame. But I did it on, I think it's a point-and-shoot, like bright red Sony camera. And I did that for a very long time. That's probably a lie. Over a year, definitely. Before I went into something that's a little closer to animation, where I was taking images and I actually had the camera on a tripod. And then to play it back, I didn't have any software, so I just held my hand on the scroll button, and the pictures would pass through as quickly as they could, which was, I think I did the math, it was only about 5 frames per second. And also, everything was really, really fuzzy, because the camera wasn't meant to scroll through all those images so quickly, so everything was fuzzy because it was still buffering. So it wasn't all that good. And then I've mentioned before that from there I went to the iPhone 4, and then my first phone, the Samsung Galaxy Express Pro, and now to this one, where I am still just on a phone. This is what I'm recording on, by the way. I hope the audio quality isn't terrible. The, what is it called? Galaxy Note 10? Yes, I think that's probably it. Next question. What was, Porg Studios asks, what was the first Brick film you ever saw? So, I remember, after seeing this question, I have a very vivid memory of, it's like, these zombie guys, because they have, red clay on their eyes, and they attack an airport or something. And I wrote in my script, I guess I should just ask the Discord. I'm sure Penta will know. And yeah, sure enough, probably 10 minutes later, Penta gave me the link. Yep, that's exactly the one. Apparently, it was pretty popular at the time. I'll leave a link to it if I don't edit this. Okay, I've run out of questions that were in my script. So let's look at the ones that I never answered. So Gilgi Animations, I believe. Ever think of doing a tutorial for animating at 8 frames per second? Yeah, this was asked when I was doing a lot of that. This is not the space to do it, because I'm definitely not editing this, but maybe someday. The big thing is, work on the key poses. You have to communicate everything in very few frames. You cannot think about the in-betweens, that you have to hit the pose, do an ease frame, then you're basically into the next frame, and then you next pose, and then you ease out of that. But you have to cut out all the in-betweens and try to choose the strongest poses possible. A lot more exaggeration goes a long way, and you kind of have to accept that some things are just going to be a little slower if you want to animate things properly. Chimichanga Productions asks, can you do a water and particles tutorial? Again, this was shortly after I released Endless Chase, I'm sure. I cannot do it in this form of video, but the water was tinfoil in that video, and the particles and the splashes were liquid glass putty. I've done water in a lot of other ways, but this is the way that got the biggest reaction, and I think it's probably my favorite way to do it. Again, maybe a real tutorial someday. Which one? LSM Films asks if I'm doing any other animation. Maybe someday I'll post, there's an app called Stick Nodes, where it's like 2D animation, but you can move around the puppets, so stick figures. And I've done some okay things with that. I've drifted from it because it's pretty time-consuming, and I don't have the time to spend on other things like that. I'd really like to do hand-drawn animation, Because in their question they also mentioned like Sadist and Alan Becker stuff, and I really love their stuff. It inspires me to do some of that, but I just don't really have the technology to do it. Something like a drawing tablet would be really nice, because you should also check out my art account on Instagram, COD3_MAN. That's where I post my arts, and also juggling. It's variety stuff, some photography as well. But I do draw, not consistently enough to be all that good at hand-drawn animation immediately. That's something I still would need to work on a lot. But I think it'd be really fun. That, like, a big thing that got me into stop-motion animation was drawing comics. That it's kind of similar to that, just adding much more in-betweens and things like that. So Rio Stranding asks, like, what's the maximum potential stop motion compared to normal other animation or claymation? So I kind of reword that question because I didn't even read it properly. But I have been talking for 16 minutes. Anything interesting happening? Yeah, by the way, that magazine piece, that is a 1x4 black tile that I've just chopped to pieces. Where was I? So yeah, what are the limitations of Lego stop motion? Hey, I haven't coughed in a while. Why am I so distracted? There's always some... I always feel some limitations by the medium itself that I'm a little apprehensive to tell people in real life that, oh yeah, I do filmmaking. It's with Legos, but hear me out. It's still... I try a lot, and I think I'm making some good stuff. Just hear me out a little bit. And most people are pretty understanding, but it's still... I feel like some people jump to some conclusions when it's Lego. Because Lego, even though there is still a very large, like, AFOL community, it still is primarily a kid's toy, and it has that recognition in the public, I'd assume. But it's such a useful filmmaking tool, and it's the only thing that I really have at my access. I've only been talking for 16 minutes, 17 minutes. It's the only thing I have at my disposal easily. I have done a little bit of live action stuff with friends when I was much younger. I am not going to name anything close to that. If you somehow find it, I don't even think my real name is attached to it. But congrats if you find any of it. Zen Juice is amazing. What was I gonna say? Shoot. Really easy to build sets. Blah blah blah. Another limitation is just the figures themselves. I have expressed my distaste for them as well. It was such a nightmare animating this. This simple, 7-second clip. It took me an hour and a half to animate just because everything is so fiddly. I should be watching the footage a little bit more carefully to see what frames took forever. This one especially. Keep your eye on this one. I take so long to figure out where to get the arc correct. And even still, I miss it. But thankfully, that missed arc adds a lot to it. I originally just wanted him to pop the magazine directly into the gun, but because I had to just follow the motion of the arc and I miscalculated it, he misses and then goes back and then pops it in, and I think that's much more natural. That it still feels well rehearsed, he knows what he's doing, but it's not inhuman that he somehow has the exact right orientation and pop. I think it works nice. So, for all the benefits of Lego, with its all the puppets made for you, all the sets so easy to make, it does have a lot of limitations, that so much so that you have to try to break the joints and do add-a-socket animation, which can be tedious and really annoying because they're the wrong scale to do it. And it's something that, in my professional career, I will almost definitely not be able to do. But because of this was only just something that was fun, and then it moved into, I really like filmmaking, I like the cinematography, and I like the animation and things like that. And now after a while, I've just pursued the animation so much more that that's definitely what I want to go to school for. That I know I'll probably be doing 3D. I'd like to do stop motion, but there seems to be more of a market for 3D. I'll be looking around, but I need to be open to learning 3D. I just don't really like the idea of keyframes, because I like the absolute control I have with stop motion, that I am controlling the easing myself, because I'm positioning characters that way. 3D is nice because it's really forgiving, because I feel that way with stick nodes, as I mentioned before, that you're capturing frames, but you can go back and you can shift the position, and that's so nice when you've messed something up. This one, oh, that's an hour and a half down the drain because you've messed up that little arc. There's still a few moments in this one that really bother me, that like the head moves a little bit too much in some places, or there's one frame where the eyes stutter, like the head motion. But for all the downsides of stop motion, there's a lot of benefits that I've grown to love. So the last one in my Q&A, Moonbricks Studios asks, do you have any long-term Moonbrick Studios asks, do you have any long-term / big future aspirations in filmmaking? So yeah, I've already mentioned some of this. I'm still in my junior year of high school, kind of with my summer birthday cut off. I am a junior, not a senior. But I have been looking into, like, not normal film school colleges, 4-year, because I do all right in school, but I really don't enjoy it, especially having to do more like history, English, math. That's a 1-year certificate program is sounding really, really appealing to me. I have a friend's sister who went to a school and they got a certificate program for animation, or grooming specifically, I think. And they've already worked on Monsters at Work, the Disney Plus show. They're still getting work. That seems like a pretty good option for me. That you don't get a degree from it, but it seems like a good idea for me, because I am not excited about the idea of college. Just more school. Not really a appealing prospect to me. Then again, working so early, not exactly either. Well, while I was finishing this up, I should have thought of what else I'm going to say after this. 22 minutes in. Anything interesting to comment on this? Yeah, welcome to the Codeman podcast, probably episode 1 of 1. Don't expect another one. Yeah, what am I animating? Yeah, this one was also really annoying. I had to figure out how to get the hands back up to the slide, figure out what the other arm was doing. That you can feel out what the 2D motion is supposed to be on the viewport, but sometimes it's tricky that you realize that something just isn't lining up, and it's because you forgot about the fact that this is in 3D, that the gun has to be pushed a little bit closer to the camera, that you're letting it drift too close to the body. Luckily, I didn't have much issue with the sticky tack refusing to stick, and, what do you call it? Just a little gravity knocking down the arms. I really hope that the audio quality is okay for this. I've pointed at the phone's on the tripod, and it's pointed away from my mouth, so hopefully the plosives are not really popping bad, because that's really bad when I speak into the microphone. I'm rambling and I'm forgetting to look. I'm writing an intermediate animation tutorial. I got some good pointers on the Bricks in Motion Discord for how I can fix it up a little bit. I still want to add more to it because it feels a little barren, but I'm happy with some of the information that it gives you. That, like, the big point of it is for the longest time, I was watching non-stop animation tutorials, and every once in a while, you'd come across an animation tutorial where it goes over the same basic stuff of get your camera, lock down the camera, use artificial lights. And that's good for beginners, but I was sick of listening to it, and I have to slog through all of that to get to maybe some new information. There are still some good higher level tutorials, but I'm looking to create one that just has some information that I don't think is all that widely available, all combined into one place. So, like, everybody knows about easing, in theory. I think you should definitely check it out if not. But I don't see enough people using follow-through and overlapping action, because that is one of my favorite principles of animation, because it makes everything look bouncy. That's the reason why this animation that you're watching being animated feels so natural, that the arms don't kind of robotically move to a place. They might ease out, but they ease out and then they bounce back because, like, your body doesn't know how to stop something instantly. There's always going to be some wobble, some back and forth, some bounce. That it feels much more natural and human. And for more cartoony things, it feels bouncy and lively. So that's just one of the things that I try to talk about. And then there's some less fundamental things, just like issues that I see from time to time where not enough animators use all the minifigure, that like they'll only move the arm up and down and forget that, oh yeah, the other arm exists and the torso, and if you move all of those at once, the character feels so much more alive and it's so much more entertaining to watch. 26 minutes. This is like 41 minutes, right? So, might be curious. The pistol the guy's holding. Well, I'm sidetracked. Yes, I chopped the neck peg off the suit. So there's a little bit of head wobble, which is nice that I can kind of control that. Sometimes I put some sticky tack on the back. I don't do that to... That's the only torso, I think, that I've done that on. But I have tried to animate him in the past. See an Amy Doc video, what's it called? Like, scrapped video, like all frames. You can see how many times I've retook the same shots over and over and over again. So that video was a nightmare to make. By the way, I'm thinking of doing a fight scene in that same set. I still have it built, I'm looking at it right now. But I have a few responsibilities that I should probably work on before that. But I don't know. Once I get into them, they'll be fun, but I'm not that engaged with some of these things. It's been nice to animate a little bit more consistently, because I've seen a bunch of animators just constantly putting out tests, and it's been inspiring me that, yeah, it feels really good to finish something and have a good clip to share. Hopefully get some nice feedback. But it just takes so long that it's hard to come up with the motivation to do that. Because I have made a bunch of clips in like 15 minutes, which just are... I mean, they're fine, but it's pretty obvious that I've rushed through them. And I want to go for quantity and quality. I don't really have the patience to do that. But short things like this, just 7 seconds, spending time to make something really refined and good. And to think, while I was animating this, I was thinking about like a podcast type thing where I was going to play this footage at just full speed, at regular speed, and then talk over it and commentate. Yeah, so I think what you're seeing now is some just in the moment editing, that there was too much wobble, because yeah, you can kind of see some of that near the end. There was too much wobble there that I had to cut some of it out and cut it short and then reanimate some of that, because it's easy to let the arms drift or push it too far because the figures are so difficult to manipulate. I shouldn't be quiet, but I don't know what to say. So, new paper effect. It can be annoying to figure out where to place the hand, because you're thinking that the muzzle flash has started, so there's already the explosion that's going to create some recoil. But you want to put it in line with where the gun used to be, because it feels weird if it's already jumped. And you don't want to think, like, especially if you start pointing the gun up already, it feels like they've missed. That it has to be in line, but with how slow the frame rate of 12 is, you have to start that recoil instantly, otherwise it feels like a really delayed reaction, like it's a prop gun. Probably something you can't see through the onion skinning, unfortunately. So the first frame with the muzzle flash, I'm shining the flashlight on it really bright to overexpose the paper, so it's pure white, and then I'm letting plenty of it spill onto the figure to create the light. And because the background's so close, it adds a nice little halo on the background as well, just lighting up the entire screen. And then the next frame after, I don't want the muzzle flash to stay around for 2 frames, because 2 frames on 12 frames per second is just a little too long for most muzzle flashes, in just my subjective opinion. But I want it to carry a little bit more weight, so I put the flashlight pretty far away, still shining on the figure, so that there's a little bit of light. Yeah, this frame, actually. No, never mind. No, that was the frame. Am I losing my voice? Maybe. So it's like the glow is dissipating a little bit. Sometimes I would do hand-drawn smoke. I considered doing cotton ball smoke, but that's really tedious and annoying to do, and I was already suffering animating some of this, that I decided to not do that to myself. 31 minutes. Comment pizza if you're still listening at this point. I will be very surprised if I see that in the comment section. Probably confused as well. I won't remember anything I've said during this. I'll probably play it back and watch it back. But I would take note if there's anything I actually need to cut out. You can listen to the first few coughs at the beginning. There's a stop. It's weird trying to approximate the hand poses for holding the gun with 2 hands, because if I were to act that out in real life, it doesn't really make any sense. Because in reality, I think I'd want the other hand like underneath my hand, holding the gun, that's kind of bracing it like that. But I tried that. I don't know if you can actually catch that in the recording. No, that was probably when I was first doing the setup, when I was trying that. But I tried putting the hand underneath the gun, and it just feels really weird, like it's too tall. So I had to move it to the side. And I guess you could wrap both hands around, but that's not even what they're doing. The character is just pressing both hands together like they're clapping, and the gun happens to be in it. But you have to take some creative liberties with it, because the Lego minifigure doesn't have bendable elbows, doesn't have real proper hands, and you can cheat the shoulders a little bit, but you have to be conscious of what position they're in. That I think there might be a few frames, like when they rack the slide back again, where the shoulder just completely detaches and sticks to the chest for a few frames, but it's hidden behind the gun and just through the angle. It's odd how the white balance affected things. Oh, I guess it was a very warm white balance, because the key light on the figure has a blue gel on it, but it's turning out green. And the backlight, the hair light, which I really like the look of, is just a warm lamp with a piece of paper over it just to diffuse it a little bit, and it looks almost red. I think I did underexpose this a little bit, which is probably bad to look at the time-lapse, as well as my hands covering the key lights, so you can only see just the highlights of my fingertips. This is probably a terrible time-lapse to watch. Why have I recorded over this one? I like the results, so maybe the final results is what's going to get people to actually consider watching this. But I have a feeling I'm just rambling into the void. Even if no one's listening, I do need to keep on speaking. I think I only have 5 minutes left. I've almost gotten through it. Please do something interesting, time-lapse. I need something. Oh look, more editing. Yeah, see, I'm playing through and the arc wasn't lining up. And I was thinking, huh, there's gotta be some kind of bounce that's wrong here. Maybe it looks like they're going to the side, but then the gun dips down too much, because, gravity. God, I hate that thing. So I tried to delete a few frames, and I think I fixed it better near the end. It's probably still not perfect, but good enough. Yeah, just very subtly animating the head that I'm just poking it with my finger, hoping to uh, get it to move subtly enough that I don't want crazy motions. I'd be curious to get a tally on how many times I replay this thing. Because after the first couple of frames, I turn it on to loop only the last couple of frames. Because this isn't Dragon Frame, unfortunately, that I can't just flip between frames, that I have to just constantly play back and play back and play back the last couple of frames to hopefully see if the arc is lining up and if that next frame is going to work well. But I think that's definitely the biggest key to better animation, is just be very conscious of where things are leading. My worst animation is when I've rushed through it and I hardly ever hit playback. Why is this man headless? Oh, yeah. Why am I recording over this? Well, deleted scene. Just for the heck of it, I decided, what if he gets shot? You don't see this animation because the final animation is bad, but that time is me going away to get the other head. So, surprised Han Solo face. It might have worked if I'd animated it properly, but I rushed through it. I think I'd already lost my patience a little bit. That I was just sick of looking at this thing. So let's watch it to see where I went wrong. So far that doesn't look terrible. I think I'm about to knock the head off any moment. Oh yeah, look at that memory. So proud of myself. God, I hope I hope my phone can take all this recording. I assume audio is less than visuals, right? It's only 40 minutes. I should have at least 10 gigabytes on my phone. That might be where I went wrong. That's not a great frame. I think I changed it some. But yeah, no, not great. But it would have been better if I'd went with it. But for some dumb reason, I believe the next frame, I decide to change up the motion and have him fall forward, as if he was going to fall onto his knees, but I don't do that for some reason. Yeah, putting sticky tack on the... Oh yeah, so that was one way I could have gone. And I think I sort of agree with that decision, because that was not a good frame, but I think I was a little hasty to just ignore that idea entirely. Oh, did I delete more than I thought I did? Yeah, maybe. Might have also been better just to stick with the surprised face. I had an idea of him clutching his gut and falling to his knee, but unfortunately I had to follow physics. God, I hate physics. And it was already telling me that the arm was flying away, that it was take too many frames to redirect that momentum. And it wouldn't really make sense to redirect that momentum, because that's not controlled by muscle. He's going limp mostly at that point, and there was no way that gravity was going to pull his arm that way. That I guess he could gain control, and that's why he'd be like clutching his gut, but that would be making it a much longer fall, and he was already falling too much. Then maybe I could have turned this into a wobble, but I think my biggest mistake was rocking the feet forward too early. And then that was really the only frame I could have done from there, and I don't like that. That's not very good. And from there, I think I had to quickly grab some bricks to extend the platform, because the platform that he's standing on doesn't actually go that far. And I had to do it over some tape that didn't really work all that well. When did I animate this? This was like 10:30 at night, so I wasn't in a rush to eat or anything. I was just sick of animating this, and I could already tell that it wasn't going well. So I look at it a few times, see that, yeah, there's nothing I can fix. I'll probably just end up cutting this anyway. So I just very quickly run through the legs going up, the feet traveling as the body kind of tilts up a little bit still, and then the legs falling back down. If I was really trying to animate this, the legs would probably have another bounce. I think I add one just to try a little bit. Yeah, but I kind of given up at that point. It's also pretty obvious that the head fell off and I just didn't care enough to put it back on. You should have seen the hair right there. What am I writing? Yeah, good enough. That's how I was feeling. I knew I was going to cut that in because it wasn't very good. And it was 1 hour and 21 minutes on the recorder. 1.5 hours is pushing it a little bit. Yeah. Excuse my stupidity. I forgot that I should just be wrapping this up and actually giving a conclusion, because now I'm making this even longer than it needs to be. Thank you for watching. I don't know why you would have. Maybe you just need something to play in the background. If so, there are better things to play in the background. There's a few podcasts I'd recommend other than this. There's probably title cards on the screen. Click one if you'd like. If you've watched this far, you've probably seen anything here. But I don't know, give it another view if you like. Thanks for watching. Comments. Pizza again. That word in quotations. Pizza again. If you've actually watched this long. YouTube engagement, all that. Thanks for watching for the 4th time. See ya. Why did you watch this? Bye-bye.